and welcome back to another episode of Versions of Healing, which is the internet segment of the Healing Version podcast. Today, we will be sitting down having a very heartfelt episode of Versions of Healing, where we will explore the transformative power of healing through life's deepest challenges. Today's guest brings a profound story of love, loss, and awakening that has reshaped how we view relationships, especially one we have with ourselves. Jonathon Aslay is one of America's leading midlife self-love and life coaches, known for helping men and women navigate the modern dating world with heart-centered wisdom. But after the tragic loss of his 19-year-old son, Connor, in 2018, Jonathon's path took a soul-stirring turn. His grief opened a gateway to deeper truths, not just about love and relationships, but about the essential, often forgotten power of self-love. Through his book, What the Heck is Self-Love Anyway?, Jonathon reshares practical, engaging, and spiritually grounded tools to guide people back to themselves. His mission now goes far beyond dating. It is about healing from within, nurturing emotional well-being, and learning how to love yourself radically, especially when life breaks your heart. This episode is a powerful conversation about grief, growth, and the courageous act of choosing yourself when it's hard. Thank you for being here, Jonathon. I appreciate you for coming on the Healing Version podcast. How are you today?
Good, thank you. I want to get a copy of the version of you did for my bio because I want to use that in the future. You added a little to it, which I appreciate.
Oh, I could definitely send it to you. That is not a problem.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So, I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. Not a problem. So with the journey to self-love, which is something that I love and I talk about all the time, what does self-love truly mean to you? Like, what's your personal definition?
Yeah, this is such a tricky one. So to some people it's manicures and pedicures, is self-love. And I look at that as self-care, but to me, self-love encompasses self-worth, self-esteem, self-confidence, self-reliance, self-discipline, and it's just wrapped up in the word love. And more importantly, what it really is, from my vantage point, is for those of us who are adults, we all have an emotional 6-year-old inside of us that is sometimes in competition with the adult version of us. And so from an emotional vantage point, a child oftentimes struggles with, the performative nature of life, just responsibilities, lots of different things associated with our emotional well-being. And what I believe self-love is nurturing that little emotional 6-year-old inside of us to say, hey, when you're feeling fear, when you're feeling doubt, when you're feeling anxiety, when you have negative patterns and limiting beliefs, it's just saying, I'm going to take care of that little 6-year-old inside of us, that emotional 6-year-old.
Awesome. I like that. That I've never thought of self-love in that way, but I've definitely been doing some inner work with my inner child who has felt unsafe, and just practicing letting her know that everything's okay and we're going to be all right. So I'm going to incorporate self-love into that journey.
Well, way to go. Yay. Well, you know what? I want to share something that's been on top of mind for me lately, is that, beside, the grief and loss that kind of leads to healing, I also believe we live in a very performative world. There's these expectations of living up to your potential, to be productive, to don't procrastinate, to always perform. And I think physically that takes a toll on our body, but more importantly, it takes a toll on our emotional well-being. And from what I understand, the word disease comes from dis-ease. In other words, when we are in an uneasy state. So one of the fundamentals within self-love is nurturing that part of you that is just tired from overperforming to some degree. And that's been on top of mind of me lately, even though, when I talk predominantly about loss from the loss of my son or the loss of a significant relationship or the loss of my identity, these are all things that have percolated in the last 20 years of my life. I've reached that place in my life where I'm like, God, life is always about, like maximizing every goddamn second. Like we have to, if we're not maximizing, if you're not doing your bucket list, if you're not spending every single moment just being absolutely productive, you're not living your fullest potential. And I'm like, that's created a lot of unease in the world. And I want to just draw attention that it's okay to just be, I want to say it's okay to curl up in a ball and just say, I don't want to do anything,
Yeah.
I mean, now I know we have responsibilities and certainly we have to take care of ourselves. And if you have children, there's gigantic responsibilities. But we all need time to recalibrate.
Yes.
And I don't think one of the principles of self-love that I didn't talk about so much in my book, but I wanted to express here in this podcast, and this is literally what I'm saying right now, I haven't said before, is one of the I'm going to call it principles of self-love is to cocoon and just be in your own silo and be okay with that. That's really the self-love piece, is being okay with doing nothing and being okay with that, because that's part of the healing process too, is to, when I think of your podcast centered around healing, we need time to heal. And sometimes doing nothing is part of the healing process too.
Yes. Because even when someone's in the hospital and they're running tests and they're making them stay there for weeks, one of the things that they stress is resting. They may say no family or limited family just so that the person who's sick can get rest, because resting is part of healing. And I feel like that's true for mental and emotional healing as well. So I agree that's good. You're gonna have to write another book so that
it's
you
something
can add
I've
that.
just been leaning. It's something I've been leaning into in my own life. And fortunately, I'm in a position at this moment where I can do that. Not everybody gets that luxury, but I've been taking naps during the middle of the day. Not. And part of it, by the way, I'm in my 60s, so I'm, I could kind of give myself a little bit of grace. But it's because, you know what? It's the go, go, go. And it's the nature of our world. It's stimulation, whether it's our cell phones or our smartphones, whether it's television, what's going on in the news, what's going on in the world. It's heavy. And I don't think emotionally we humans have been prepared for the amount of heaviness that exists in the world right now. And again, I didn't talk about this so much in the book, or I didn't really address it, is that the need for really cocooning and resting, like what you just shared, because that's part of the healing process too.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. And definitely is. I have those days where I'm just like, I'm not doing nothing. I'm not doing no laundry. I'm not cooking. I'm not doing a dish. I'm not doing anything. I'm not folding. I'm just going to lay here. And if I want to watch TV, I'm going to watch TV. I'm going to get my favorite food. And that's what I'm going to do today. And
absolutely,
I've learned to not feel bad about doing that, because when I get into that space of where I'm just maybe down on myself, I know that's something that brings me out of it. So to the audience, you should do that as well.
I want to piggyback on that, because the piece that you said is, I'm okay with it. The the reason why self-love, it's like if a child says to you, I don't want to do anything, and you're screaming at the child, you have to do this and you have to do this and you have to do this, right? And the child says, please, can I just rest? It's like, it's saying when you're attacking, like this is what we do to ourselves. We beat ourselves up emotionally. You're not being productive. You need to perform. You always have to move. You have to be disciplined. You have to exercise. You have to do all of those shoulds. Is crushing the emotional 6-year-old inside of us. So it's saying, hey, it's okay. Because quite frankly, we humans we do more emotional damage to ourselves than other people in the world. We do more emotional damage to ourselves than it might feel that way from the outside world doing that. But the way we flog ourselves, the way we crucify ourselves, the way we, attack ourselves emotionally is quite the opposite of what we need. And that beating ourselves up doesn't really achieve the desired goal. It might temporarily achieve the desired goal of like when we're in a place of discipline where we're so rigid and cruel to ourselves that, yeah, we might temporarily be okay, but in the long run, it will pay a price. And that's what I want to draw attention to.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like it creates a lot of anxiety. I feel like a lot of us have a lot of anxiety and we're just anxious because we just got to get this done. I know for me, I'm just like, oh, I got this to do and this to do. And I'm like having a calendar on my phone and I'll just sit back and I'm like, look, I'm going to do what I can. If I don't get everything done, that's okay. It took me a while to get here. So it's not something that happens overnight because, that self-sabotaging and all those things, it's a real thing. So have grace and just, be patient with yourself and just know that you don't have to do everything. I also have this journal and I love it so much because it has the same prompt questions every day. And one of the sections is what I need to do and what I want to do.
Okay.
What can wait? What I can do now.
Interesting.
And what can actually wait.
And what I want to do. I just can I throw in a not a monkey wrench or anything, but I also thinking of the phrase, what can I do? In other words, like I might want to do something, but can I really do it? In other words, I want to save the world. Okay. That might be that's a little too esoteric, but it's also being able to recognize what we're capable of doing. And I love those prompts. And if, here's the thing for anyone listening or for everyone who is listening, the journey of self-discovery, the journey to self-awareness, the journey to, I don't even want to use the phrase enlightenment because that feels a little too woo-woo, begins with an understanding that we are, for lack of a better word, and this sounds like a judgment, we are flawed beings, okay? We have fears, we have insecurities, we have judgments towards others, we have negative patterns, we have limiting beliefs, okay? And self-awareness is being aware of those things as if your life is like on a stage and then you're the audience member witnessing your life. You can see when you're in those places of self-crucifixion, self-abandonment, when you're flogging yourself, that sort of thing, and being able to go, oh, I see I'm doing that. I'm not a victim to someone else. In other words, we, at least here in the United States, we are swimming in the sea of victim consciousness. It's always someone else's fault for where we're at emotionally. And I can promise you, while there's certainly, I'm not here to shame anyone, who's genuinely experienced abuse or physical, emotional things like that. If you have to call a doctor, an attorney, or a policeman, it is a very valid feeling. But what I'm talking about is oftentimes we don't take ownership of our lives. and say, I have the power within me to shift. And that's one of the fundamental principles of self-love, is to say, I am in charge of my own destiny, nobody else. I mean, yes, we have people in our lives that play a part of it, and taking ownership, particularly in the area, like you talked earlier about anxiety, that's a construct we create within ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there could be some genuine triggers that create that, external forces, and we have the power within us to nurture ourselves too. And that's really what I want to draw attention to, is that we have this superpower within us to love ourselves. And I don't think that's a skill, that's a muscle that's been developed very well. And so that's why I'm excited to talk to you,
Well, I'm excited to have you here. So one of the things that I want to go into is the unimaginable pain of losing a child. Yeah. And just talk a little bit about how grief led you towards like a deeper self-inquiry, ultimately self-love, and where you were before losing Connor and how things turned for you. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp, your online therapy solution. I'm going to be real with y'all. Therapy changed everything for me. Just having someone to talk to who's trained to help me and unpack life and reflect without judgment, that was powerful. BetterHelp is an online therapy platform that makes getting started easy. You fill out a quick questionnaire and get matched with a licensed therapist within a few days. And say you get matched with a therapist and they're not a good fit for you, you can switch at any time at no extra cost. So if you are ready to start your own healing journey, visit betterhelp.com/the healing version to get 10% off your first month. Again, that's betterhelp.com/the healing version. Thank you.
Sure. I think I've been blessed that prior to my son's passing, my mother passed just a few months before him. So it was interesting. It was kind of the timing was at the same time. But when my mother passed away, she was 88 years old. She lived a good life, it was, and we were prepared for it to some degree. And it seemed like the natural order of things. And why I'm sharing this is I actually didn't experience a lot of loss prior to that, not anyone really close to me. So my mother being the first one to go, I'm like, okay, I could accept that. And then boom, I lose my son to an accident. And it was all of a sudden. And I'm like, wow, I'm experiencing grief. I'm experiencing, the denial, the bargaining, all the layers of anger, depression, all those layers of grief. Mm-hmm. And I began suffering. And I remember it was 2 weeks after he had passed, or 10 days, I think it was, we had his funeral. And I was giving his eulogy. And in that moment, I'm speaking to our family, our friends, and I'm like, and I just stopped and said, everyone, we have a choice. We can grieve with suffering or we can grieve with love. Because I knew Connor wouldn't want us to suffer one day. I know our loved ones do not want us to suffer. I believe that in my bones. Mm-hmm. So when I said I want to grieve with love, I was like, well, what does that mean? And it was the choice to say, how can I return to love in every facet of my life, my being? How can I choose love over fear? How can I choose love over suffering? And it was a question I began exploring. And I'd been blogging about self-love I'm a dating and relationship coach. I'm a self-love life coach, dating and relationship coach. That's most of what I talk about is dating and relationships. And I'm like, I started blogging about self-love and I'm like, well, let's expand this from the pain I was experiencing and how can I redirect that pain? And I thought writing a book. And I published the book 9 months after the day he passed, and it was a bestseller within a week. And I was pretty excited about that.
That is exciting.
Yeah.
That's really exciting. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
You have a very encouraging, inspiring, and brave story. So I like to get into some of the fun stuff. I think of dating and relationships as like
Sure.
fun. So what does that look like? Do you get the clients and you have people having relationship problems, or what is that?
Yeah. So just really quickly, I mean, the way I began coaching was at first helping people improve their online dating profiles. 15 years ago when I began this, online dating was a little bit the Wild West. It was still relatively new. And interestingly enough, in 15 years now, online dating represents 65%, or literally 2/3 of all new relationships are birthed through some sort of online connection.
Wow.
Now, if we go back 50 years ago, it was a whole different ballgame. It was the school you went to, the town you lived in, the church you went to. Those were, or your professional, like those were the primary places where you met your mate. And now online dating represents 2/3. And it's both a blessing and a curse.
Tell me about it, but yeah.
Well, the blessing is you have access to people you wouldn't otherwise have in your daily life. The curse is you're meeting total strangers.
Yes.
And because most of the time, I mean, occasionally there's maybe 1 degree of separation or 2 degrees, but most of the time it's like we have no common connection, through a friend or family member. So we know nothing about them. And the challenge with our current dating environment, it literally is an interview process. Now, most people, by the way, I'm saying this from the vantage point, it should be an interview process, okay? Now,
it definitely
most every
should be.
dating coach, pardon me?
I said it definitely should be.
Now, the reason why I said should is most everybody wants to sell you it should just be fun, it should be light, it should be easy. But the problem is this: when it's fun, light, easy, we are susceptible to chemistry, being attracted to someone who's completely incompatible with each other. Mm-hmm. So I say should be an interview process is you should just find out, are we really on the same page? Do we share the same values? Are our lifestyles blendable? But more importantly, are you even an emotional grown-up to be in a relationship? And I can tell you, we are swimming in a sea of emotional dysfunctionality. So you have a greater chance of finding someone who has weak relationship skills at best. So the reason why it's an interview and I actually jokingly say it's an interrogation. Now, let me explain why I say that. And again, I don't mean it in the literal sense, but what the word interrogation is about getting to the truth. Dating is a process about getting to the truth of another person to see if this is a journey of that we want to do together. Do you have a shared vision? Do you have a shared values? Is this something where we can blend lives together? And do we have the skill set to build a relationship? And sadly, like I said, it's like the Hunger Games out there. It's not pretty.
Trust me. I know. I've tried online dating, and it was, oh man, it was such a nightmare. And it was probably because I used more of the free online dating, and most people say that the ones that you pay for are, they have better quality of people. But I'm like, I want to spend my money yes.
Can I interrupt? But do you hear what you said? There's a better quality of person. Well, first off, that's a fallacy. There's no, just because someone pays for something doesn't make them any better quality. And I know you didn't mean it that way, but I want to say it's not online dating per se is the problem. This is just a portal to meet people. You could go to a grocery store and still meet the exact same person at a grocery store, it didn't change the dynamic. Human beings, the reason why I wrote the book What the Heck is Self-Love Anyway, is the journey of personal development, self-help, spiritual work to become a more actualized human being, to become a more aware human being, to become a more sovereign human being. And we have abdicated our need. We, at least here in the United States, we are suckling on the nipple of, I need you to love me so I can feel good about myself. I need you to validate me so I can feel good about myself. I need you to be present so I can feel good about myself. And so we enter into relationship with people because we need them to make us feel good instead of feeling good and someone else feeling good and saying, hey, do we want to do this together? So, and by the way, it feels like it's online dating is the problem because that's how we're meeting people. But
and no, I just want to be clear. Like, that wasn't a comment from me that the people who are paying are better quality. That's what I was told. I was told that.
Yeah, no,
using the free site. So that's why you're not getting a good quality of people. And I'm like, I don't want to pay and then still get a bad quality. Because I definitely don't think because they're paying that they're a better quality. I honestly think that the man who are like upper echelon that makes the money are the more controlling man. But
yeah, that's a good point. By the way, just because someone, has a high paying job doesn't make them any more emotionally available than a person who's
absolutely not. They may be just a little less emotionally available because they feel like their money makes them. Yeah.
For the record, for as many emotionally unavailable men out there who are incapable and, don't have the skill sets to be in a relationship, there's an actual equal number of women. They just because women, tend to be more, relationship oriented doesn't make them any more qualified to be in a relationship. I just want to be clear. But there's
trust me, I understand that.
There's this fallacy that women are doing this, men are the problem. And men are doing this, women are the problem.
Yep. That's where we're going wrong. That's where we're going wrong. I totally agree because I was one of those women. I thought that because I knew like so much about what I wanted and all of this but I wasn't emotionally available. I wasn't.
Yeah.
I didn't really care about, like, I didn't know how to communicate. And so all of these things that are needed to have a successful relationship, I lacked them. So now when I meet men and they are lacking all of these things, it's like a red flag right away. And I'm leaving. I'm running. I don't want to figure it out. I'm sorry. Come to me. At least have some type of healing going on from whatever you've gone through. Have some type of emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
We don't have to have it all figured out, but have something figured out at least. I need something to work with.
Yeah.
So we'll have to reconnect and have a relationship show because I can talk about relationships. Here's a funny story. So I used to be on this platform where I had this show and it was called The Relationship Talk with Miss Debo. And people would come and ask me relationship questions and I would tell them like what I thought, what they should do. Yeah. And everybody was like, oh my God, you got all this good advice. Well, I was sitting back and I was disgusted because what I was finding out is that a lot of people were in relationships that should be in therapy, should be healing. Like you're not even ready for a relationship. What are we talking about? So that is really what prompted the healing version. That is probably 65% of what prompted me. Like, we need to start healing. Yeah. We don't need to be in relationships.
Well, that's, and to piggyback on that, when I wrote my book, it's a journey of personal development, self-help, spiritual work, and therapy. Not that my book is therapy, but those are the mediums that I encourage people to heal themselves, to love themselves, to be more actualized, to show up more fully present in a relationship. Because when we've done the inner work, and let me be clear, there's this saying, you can't love another until you love yourself. Well, we never fully love ourselves. It's an ongoing process. The difference is if you're working on yourself, you're more apt to be more relational than a person that's just abdicate and say, hey, this is who I am, take it or leave it, and accept my bad behavior, and be okay with it. That's like, in my mind, that's not being a true partner. That's just saying my way or the highway. And the dating, and I'll just say, I'll end on this note regarding the dating process. I'm here to encourage people to date themselves. And in other words, the best relationship ever going to have is the relationship with yourself. And I don't mean dating yourself like you have to go the manicures, pedicures, and all that self-care stuff. I just mean loving on oneself, healing on oneself, really being self-reflective. That better prepares you to be with another human being. That's it. It doesn't make you per se a better partner, but it makes you better prepared.
Absolutely. I agree. I've been dating myself, but I do actually go out on dates. So with myself.
There you go. Yeah, go. Yeah.
Well, I thank you so much for being here. Can you please share with the audience where they can find your book and connect deeply with you and your coaching and self-love community?
Well, can I give you a big hug of appreciation? Thanks for having me on. So my name is listed here, Jonathon Aslay. If you just cut and paste it, put it into Google, you'll find my YouTube channel, which I've got a couple 100,000 followers or subscribers. I have my website on there. I have my social media, whether it's Instagram, Facebook. You can go follow me in those platforms. And if my voice resonates with you, post a comment and say thank you. That resonated with me. Because I'm here to and just encourage, a shift in perspective. If you put it, I'll put it that way.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and audience, thank you so much for being here. I will put Jonathon's information in the description box below so that you can locate him and get all the self-love and find his book and all of that. Where is your book? Where can listeners get your book?
I'm sorry, I should have mentioned that. You can go to selflovethebook.com, or you can go to Amazon and just type in my name. I forgot to mention my book, but it's on Amazon as my primary place to get it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here, and you all have a blessed day. Peace.
Likewise. Thank you.